Alright, that should be enough wood to last me a few days. Huh? Of course. The server's broken. Riley, what the heck are you doing? I'm lagging like crazy and you're the only other guy online. Well, I mean, it's not a huge problem, but I would like to know what's going on. Oh, the chicken farm, huh? No, you don't have to do anything. It's just, you forget I said anything. Goodbye.
Bro, I'm lagging! I am Herobrine.
Crayon, guard the bed. Huh. Don't let him break the bed. Don't just stand there, stop him. You just broke the bed while time was stopped. Whoa, what the?
Well, hello there, I'm AnxiousCynic and welcome back to another wallpaper competition review. Let's jump into it. So overall, the lighting and effects in this one seem pretty good. The main thing that stuck out to me on this one is the animation and the sound effects seem a bit inconsistent. You have this kind of fluid movement, but then when they go into a pose like this, it just stops. Maybe that was intentional, I don't know, but in any case, it stuck out to me a little bit weird. And then you have these sound effects for, you know, like cloth moving or whatever you want to call it, but there's no sound effects for any of the other like more prominent movements. Like here you have this character begins to run, there's no sound effects for that. Again, maybe intentional, but to me it came off as inconsistent. The only other thing I could say is, you know, this person apparently was named CynicHater69, so he probably deserved the disconnect that he got. So with this submission, I would say the first thing that sticks out to me is the lighting. It's kind of flat. The ambient occlusion or whatever is way too strong, and you have this just horrid blackness behind the character. So I would definitely improve on the lighting in this and turn down that ambient occlusion effect. That is not attractive. Like, that is a very bad look. Besides that, you know, the animation is very basic, but, you know, going with kind of a basic Minecraft style, it's not horrible, but I would definitely work on some of the transition work with, you know, this motion here. Again, it can be intentional, but you gotta have things to context that. The main thing in terms of animation to me, though, is the block here. It just comes off as kind of a random way to animate this. It doesn't really look good, so I would have done it a little bit more of like how Minecraft looks, you know, have the block kind of disappear and then reappear instead of doing this weird motion here. But yeah, besides that, pretty accurate portrayal of lag. So for this submission, the main thing that stuck out to me is the animation is pretty, you know, crude, you know, a little bit of a beginner kind of nature to it. Things move slowly, but you know, that comes with time. Nothing to really critique too harshly there. The main thing is it doesn't look like the sword was parented at this point in time, and that is always kind of a giveaway. You want to make sure you do parenting so that things aren't sliding around. You want it to move with his hand. Even if the animation quality itself isn't that great, things like that will stand out and just kind of take it down so many notches severely and unnecessarily. It's so easy to do parenting, so I would recommend doing that in the future. The walk cycle needs some work there, but good use of sound effects with the little pop noise there, but there's no other sound effects. Again, we kind of have this issue with inconsistent sound effects, so something to practice for you guys is choosing the right sound effects, when to use them, when not to use them, things like that, kind of nailing down a style. Besides that, with this one, you know, the lighting seems adequate, but the depth of field is a bit harsh. I would have maybe increased the fade distance or something like that, so it's a bit more gradual instead of this very stark depth of field look, because sometimes that can be more of a distraction than kind of, you know, the use of depth of field is a visual quality, but you're also kind of just telling the viewer that this stuff back here doesn't matter. But when it's that blurred, it draws attention to itself. So this was a pretty cool submission. The main thing that stuck out to me immediately is the floating fences here. First of all, like, you don't want floating objects, but I think that is a telltale sign that this is one of the pre-made, preloaded sceneries in Minimator. You know, it's a little bit better to have your own custom scenery. Flatlands back there, you want to avoid that. But overall, once it gets into the meat and potatoes of the animation here, I mean, technically I would say that it probably could have just started here instead of having that establishing shot. Like, these establishing shots are good, but like, maybe what I would have done is for this scene to have had the exterior of the building in it, so you establish like where the guy is and he's coming home or whatever. In any case, the lighting seems pretty adequate. The animation quality is good. I like the little details here, like when he comes in, the little pop-up there, so it kind of, that's one of the things that always kind of sticks out to me in Minecraft, Minimator or whatever, when you have the character basically just in line with this due to the blocky nature of Minecraft, and it can clip through a lot when you're trying to animate walk cycles through the doors and stuff. So nice little detail there, which is consistent throughout, like a lot of nice little animation details. This bit here, once again, no sound effects. You know, having those little things like that movement is pretty prominent in the animation, so you typically would want a sound effect there, the little pop sound or something to suggest he pulls it out into his hand then puts it away. It's kind of a simple thing here, but I like the fact that he tries to close the door with the axe. Just, you know, stylistic little details like that are cool. Pretty accurate portrayal of experiencing lag in Minecraft. I like the voice work and the character, like the facial animations, the emotiveness and everything is really good. I like the emotiveness and the way the facial expressions are animated. A lot of effort there, you know, going through those little steps to create those little details, and it adds a lot, you know, having the voice work and the emotiveness, creating characters and a bit of a story. The timing of things, like the comedic effect of the lag catching up. Very good work here. I enjoyed this one. So this one's a bit of a random submission. It almost looks like it's intentionally bad, and if it's not, my sincerest apologies there. But the first thing you notice obviously is this kind of bad walk cycle. The character appears to be floating above the ground. It could be just weird shadows making it look that way, but I'm pretty sure he is not level to the ground there. The walk cycle seems maybe intentionally poor because his arms aren't even moving, but I don't know, maybe some novice animators would overlook that. In any case, it's a bit random. There's no context for the lag. It just seems like it was something thrown together. A little bit more time spent on this one, even if it is meant to be kind of a poopy animation. There's ways you can do that with it being intentional and not looking accidental. But of course, if it is accidentally, due to lack of experience or whatever, one thing, the Minimator meme of Watermark there is maybe a giveaway that you're a beginner. But in any case, you want to look at some of the other submissions, see how the theme was utilized, creating a bit of a story with it, going the extra mile with those little things. There's no rush to get your submission in. Normally we give plenty of time, so there's no benefit to being first or anything like that. So just spend a little extra time and try to submit something you'll be happy to have alongside the other submissions. So this submission actually is pretty good as well. Nice animation quality, good kind of expressions and emotiveness in the characters' faces, decent lighting scenario. It's pleasant to look at. The main issue that I noticed with this one, this is kind of a non-animation related issue, I guess, but the text here, your subtitles, the chat text, whatever you want to call it, it happens way too fast. It's you have to watch it multiple times to be able to read it all. And that's something you want to keep in mind if you're going to be using text subtitles or anything, is to make sure that unless it's just absolutely called for that something comes up really quickly, you want to make sure that your text lasts on screen long enough to be read. It's a challenging thing when you're editing or animating because you're sitting there looking at it for, minutes or hours, and it seems like it's up there for too long. But usually, I think the rule of thumb is you want your subtitles to be up for as long as it takes you to read it 3 times, read it out loud 3 times. That is kind of the rule for having it up long enough for a new viewer to pick it up. You may not have to go quite that long, of course, but you just don't want it flashing up on the screen where people have to pause your video in order to see what's being said. In any case, it's a relatable theme here. I feel like this is me in Minecraft, and even when there's no lag, I feel like this is how I die, because people cheat. And anytime I get killed, that's the reason. So in this one, the first issue is the camera composition here. The camera is kind of a bit too low. We got too much of the ground here. So just as one of those, composition cinematography points, is you want to kind of have your camera set up so that each scene, each shot is, kind of contributing and telling the story. This one seems a bit random and hastily put together. I might have tightened it up a bit, or maybe made it wider so you get more of a view of the environment. But for this shot, I would have probably tightened it up maybe where the frame ended, somewhere around here on this left side, and kind of had Steve and the block more prominent in frame. Other than that, the animation quality is pretty decent. Again, with facial expressions and whatnot, that's always cool to see. You guys evolving and kind of telling a story with the characters' faces. Using rigs for the ore blocks. Personally, I like the kind where the ore is inset rather than extruded, but that's just me. There's like sound effects for lava, even though you don't see it, which is good. It kind of gives you an indication of maybe where the lighting source is coming from. So that's a nice little touch there, adding to the scene and the environment. At first, when I watched this, I felt like the zombies walk cycle was kind of weird. Maybe what it is because everything is straight, but his back is bending. I don't know, maybe it's just kind of odd to me personally, but I would have just kept his back straight and had him pivoting at the hip to do the little bobby motion there, because otherwise, I don't know, it just seems like inconsistent the way he looks and moves. But in any case, like, the walk cycle is pretty decent, I would say. It's a nice little take on the zombie look. Nice use of textures for the mouth there. And again, this is very relatable to me personally, because anytime I die from mobs, it's because of scenarios like this, not because I suck at Minecraft. And once again, Blue Hedgehog Gamer comes in with that indisputable style and technique. Again, there's not a lot that I can say here because everything is pretty solid. Good lighting and techniques and everything. There's just such a consistency to Blue Hedgehog's work that I feel like it's difficult to comment on anything because it's all pretty much well done. As usual, as we've seen in previous submissions, I'm really glad a lot of you guys are going with adding voice work and facial expressions, adding that emotiveness and storytelling to your animations. It's always really nice to see you guys going the extra mile there and accomplishing things. So as far as critiques, the main thing that I noticed with this one is I felt like the visual storytelling in terms of the timeline was a bit confusing. It seems, this is all normal, everything's looking good, and then when he goes into, lag mode, it's a bit desaturated, so we're getting that idea of like, okay, he's not in the same timeline. And then when we go into what seems to be actually happening, it's got this kind of bloomy look to it. So to me, the bloom suggests more of a dreamlike quality, and this seems more like, a past quality. So while this works, to me, the juxtaposition of having it with the bloomy, dreamlike look made it a little bit confusing, at least on the first viewing, to understand what was happening and when. So what I probably would have done is reverse that, just in my opinion. Like for this part, like this isn't actually happening. This is what he's seeing on his end because he's lagging. I would have had that look like the dream. And then this is kind of going back to telling the viewer this is what actually happened, So then when you see the beds destroy, this guy leaves, then I might have gone back to how it looked in the beginning. Unless those are the same, but I don't think so. It doesn't feel quite as dreamy in this one to me, but maybe it's just the camera angles. In any case, something like that I think personally would have worked a little bit better due to the way it was done. It kind of made me, like I said, confused a little bit as to what was happening and when. But obviously the idea came through, so either way, excellent work as usual. And for our final submission here, the first thing that stuck out to me is this intro bit with the spinning of the environment. Not a big deal, but it goes on a little bit too long. I might have just had a slower pan, like from there to there, for the entirety of the duration of this. So and like maybe cut the duration in half, honestly. Just a slow pan kind of out there and looking towards the scenery and not lasting too long, just a few seconds. Nitpicking, I know. One thing that was interesting though is this shot here. It almost looks like a tilt shift, kind of looking down at miniatures kind of look, so I thought that might have been a theme throughout the whole animation, but I guess it was just this shot here. So generally speaking, this is pretty well animated. The lighting is adequate, but to me it comes off a little bit flat / uninspired, if you want to call it that. You're using Blender or something, I can tell, so the lighting is improved. So I think you get away with it more so than you would in Minimator, but having this lighting where the character's kind of shadowed and only backlit and stuff, it's fine, but it just looks a little bit flat and boring. Maybe even simply just increasing the saturation would have helped liven it up a bit, but I think having a little bit more lighting on your characters' faces and whatnot usually helps a little bit. In any case, good animation quality once again. Some of the shots here, I felt like the cinematography was a little off-putting. Like here, you go from this stationary shot to this kind of whipping pan shot. Your composition seems a little bit odd there. Maybe would have had the camera kind of tilt down and follow the character a little bit, but there's not really anything happening to suggest action. He's just kind of walking around, and this quick camera movement here to me was just off-putting. It just kind of threw me off that the camera just kind of juts over. It's kind of oddly composed, and it's moving a bit too fast for, in my opinion, the action on screen. As far as the theme goes, however, I think this was a pretty fitting submission for the theme. having the character or player experiencing all these different forms of lag. My favorite is especially this shot here where he's just kind of bouncing up and down, not actually falling the way he wants to and whatnot. Very accurate portrayal of lag. So finally we get to the grand finale of choosing the winner for this competition. And it's a bit tough. We had a number of good submissions for this. Everyone did a pretty good job of portraying lag. I think we've all experienced it enough to know how we would like to portray it in an animation. And as such, we had a lot of good submissions that were on point with the theme. And I don't know, I'm thinking this is going to be a bit controversial, but I think I'm going to have to go with Applehead 2's animation. I just felt like the portrayal of the lag, kind of introducing more of a story with the talking to another player who's running a chicken farm and it's causing the server to lag. It's maybe not quite as eventful as some of the other submissions, but I felt like this one really encompassed good quality animation, nice use of added details with voice work and facial expressions, focusing on those minor details like I pointed out with the stick and leaf on his head. For whatever reason they're there and they're kind of bouncing under the doorway, things like that. So this one to me stood out and kind of took the cake as having just the well-rounded storytelling, animation quality, and kind of being on point with the theme, all that stuff. It was a tight race. I probably could have chosen one or two other ones that were right up here with it, but for me personally, this one stuck out. If you disagree, feel free to let me know who you think should have won in the comments. But Applehead 2 is gonna pick, I don't know what their name is in Discord. They're gonna pick the next theme. Congratulations, and I'll see you guys in the next one.